Hello, my name is Katie. I'm from Lemon and Honey, and I'm here on behalf of Stronger Kent Communities. This is a shorter introduction to where to start with corporate partnerships and part of further training that's going to be coming your way. So today we are looking at corporate partnerships, and I use the word partnerships because I'm really passionate about the mindset that corporate fundraising is about a partnership. It's about what the corporates can give to you, but also how you deliver in return. So I use that rather than sponsorship because I find that sponsorship, it implies done to, the corporate doing unto the charity. With corporate fundraising, for me, it requires a different mindset to all other income streams. I'm a fundraising consultant and my absolute passion is all things relationships in fundraising. And I consider corporate fundraising within relationships, but it does require a different mindset to bringing bringing money in from any other income stream. The three reasons that I think that are that it's asking for money that isn't advertised. What we're talking about today is thinking about businesses that might like to support your organisation. We're not talking about the likes of Greggs or Lush, who have a charitable foundation. This is about thinking about businesses that align with what you're doing and asking them for money cold. It's also about understanding your PR value. With other income streams, when we ask for money, we think about the impact that we're going to make, and we sell our value on the impact and the deliverables of your charitable organisation. But for business, there's another factor in there, and that's your PR value, understanding what you can give them in return beyond delivering the work that you do. And we'll come back to all of this. And the third thing is, we talked about partnership. It's about developing a contractual business relationship. It's about delivering a partnership where the business gives you money and maybe other kinds of support, and you in return deliver on what you've promised them. And we'll come back to all of those. But with those three in mind, that's where we're going to start today. Very quickly, let's think about why a business might give you money. It might be to fulfill their corporate and social responsibility, CSR. And for those of you that don't know this is, depending on the nature and size and location of your business, you will be required to have a corporate social responsibility policy. And that will likely have impact on the community or giving to the community in some way, whether it be time or money. And so, as I say, depending on the size and nature of the business, the CSR policy will be something the business is trying to actively fulfill and may be a way in. There's no denying that corporate donations can offset tax, and that often businesses will give a charity, and I just use the term charity to encompass all charitable organisations, for positive publicity, for the PR value we talked about. It can also be to offset a negative public image. And it's really, really useful to think about before you even start on a corporate partnership campaign, to think about where you wouldn't accept money from. For example, I worked for an environmental project, and they were approached by a lot of local car dealerships with wanting to highlight their new electric cars. This was a while back when electric cars were just coming onto the market. And they were very, very keen, because of their non-environmental credentials, to align their green product with this green organisation. But for the organisation, it was just a no-go. And they were put in a rather awkward position because they hadn't thought about it. So before you do anything, talk to your trustees, talk to your board, talk to your governing team, and just check if there are any organisations or types of organisations you wouldn't be happy to receive money from. Today, we're going to talk about 4 stages of preparing for a corporate partnership. And I am talking about sitting there thinking we're ready to have corporate partnerships, but we just don't know where to start. It's completely fair to say that you may have warm relationships. There may be an existing funder. You may come from another organisation and bring a corporate with you. There are many ways to develop corporate relationships, but this is about starting from cold, sitting at your desk thinking, where do I start? And we're going to talk about preparing your organisation, researching businesses, how to make an approach, and then how to be a good partner. And so the first thing that I always suggest is finding your synergies. What are your values, your mission statement, your reasons for being? What are the big things about you? Why do you exist? For example, you may deliver respite play opportunities for children with learning disabilities. Your synergies are not your delivery. Your synergies are your big values. So you're about family, you're about children, you're about development, you're about fun. All of those things, all of those important things are your synergies, because what we're going to do is take those and look for businesses that align with your synergies. So first thing is listing those, going through and listing your synergies. Then the second is thinking about your delivery. What do you do? What's your role in the community? What are you all about? What are your daily deliverables? And you obviously will know that, but the point of doing this is to find a way of summarising it in one good sentence. When we are looking at corporate approaches, we have a much shorter time to make an application. We may have, if you imagine an A4 letter, we have probably one paragraph to grab someone's attention. So we need to be able to summarise your delivery in just one sentence. And the third thing is what would be missing if you weren't delivering? And this is your PR pitch. This method of corporate partnerships is about attracting businesses to you. And I really believe that businesses like to be sold their PR story. They like to, especially in the first instance, understand exactly the difference they're making. An example that I always use on this is that I worked for the Walk to School charity, and we delivered green travel for children to school, and we delivered road safety tests, because there were all sorts of statistics on children not being able to cross roads because they were so commonly driven to school. And we had some success in funding. But as soon as we took the road traffic accident figure and put that as a prevention figure in our pitch, we started raising money from corporates. By which I mean, if we started to say, please help us save 3 children from dying on Kent's roads each year, we put the PR story as a one sentence hook at the beginning of our ask to our corporates, and help them envision themselves in the story, the PR that we could say about them. And that sentence is a little trite perhaps, but the difference is the difference between corporate approaches and grant applications. We're going straight in with the difference the corporate can make. We're going in with the hero story. We're not going in with a grant application where we have perhaps 6 boxes and so many words to tell a story, and we can go through the objectives, the impact, the reach, the numbers. You know, in a grant application, I have a lot of questions. Corporate funding, I always go straight for the difference they can make. We can talk about impact later on in our application, or later on in a warm conversation, but right at the beginning when we're trying to hook someone in, that's what we're going for. And the next thing is, what do you need money for? Your ask. This is really crucial, knowing exactly what you need money for and having a range of options, so you can ask for money and say very specifically what it will buy. And then what can you offer in return? What are your assets? What can you bring to the partnership? Apart from the positive relationship of delivering to your charitable clients, what else can you offer? Who else do you speak to? For example, you may have a high social media following, you have a website, you have a building, perhaps where you can offer some advertising for the partner. Also think about, a really crucial thing is to think about the people you speak to through your database. Who do you have on your newsletter list? Who do you talk to when you have a new piece of your project to deliver? Because that's where one of your biggest assets will come. For example, if you are that respite play centre, you may have a newsletter that goes to parents and families of the children. Now, you may have 300 families on your list for a Kent business that wants to, for example, a solicitor's firm that wants to deliver to families. That's a huge asset. Of course, you're not going to give them your database, you're going to shout about them in your newsletter, but you can make them look good in front of 300 Kent families. So have a real think about your assets. Once you've done that, we go to the research phase. So now we're starting to look for businesses that would be good. And it's boring, but also methodical, this bit. So first of all, we're starting with your synergies. If one of your synergies, for example, is environmental, then we can start to look for environmental businesses in your area. We sit with Google and a big pot of tea, and we just trawl through As you start, you may find directories. If you're based in Kent, Kent Messenger have a Business of the Year listing every year, and you may find that businesses sitting there. But start to Google family businesses, businesses that talk about families. For example, if family is one of your synergies, keep looking, keep Googling, keep playing around. You will slowly find directories and lists online that will help you. And just record them. Then, once you find someone that looks good, have a look at their giving history. Have a look, by which I mean, have a look at stories on their website, their About Us sections. Do they shout about giving money to other organisations and other charities? If they do, this is a great thing because it means they're open to giving money. If it seems that they have one charity that they support, then I would put them on a second list. I wouldn't go to them first of all because it looks like they've already engaged with the charity. But if perhaps, a year ago they did a bike ride for a particular charitable organisation, then I'd put them on your list. Start drilling in, and start also, when you see their synergies, when they talk about being a family business, pull out what they say about that synergy so you can use it back in your pitch. I've just mentioned you could make two lists. One is your first list, your go for it list, and one is your long shot. So somebody who's got a charity that they seem to be sponsoring recently, I put on your second list, but somebody who perhaps doesn't have any charitable giving or has a little bit of charitable giving in their past, put them on your go for it. And then whilst you're online, find your contacts. These are the people you're going to make your pitch to. And I would start looking for somebody who is head of CSR, because your corporate social responsibility policy is the easiest way into a business. That it may not exist, they may not have someone. And I have known with sort of medium to large businesses, there be somebody nominally head of CSR, but they actually don't really know that it's part of their job spec. So we'll just talk about that in a second. If they don't advertise the head of CSR, I'd go for head of marketing. And if it's a small business and they don't seem to have department heads because they're not quite big enough, then go for the CEO or the founder, the equivalent of the CEO. But the thing I'm going to say is that it's really important to verify these contact details by phone. By the time you get to a pitch, sending your pitch to the head of CSR who left, sending it on a Tuesday and she left on a Monday, is obviously going to be heartbreaking. So you do need to phone up. When you phone up, you need to be ready to make your pitch because you might have an opportunity to speak to them. And in your research, in pulling up your list of businesses to approach, look to your own community. Who are you already warm to? Your users, your volunteers, friends, family, supporters, even your suppliers. Think about people who know you. Think about perhaps putting a piece in your newsletter or your social media, asking if anybody works for a corporate that might be willing to partner. It's always, always, always easier to get money from somebody who's a little bit warm to you. So we've looked at prepping your organisation. We've looked at your research. We're now going to talk about your approach. And I'm a really passionate believer in having a menu approach, by which I mean this. Now, this is a very dull example of a menu, but it's and not necessarily the right amounts, but it's a list of sorry, my door. It's a list of amounts attributed to assets in increasing value. And you can see on there, I might suggest £50 for a logo on your website, but £1,000 for a dedicated advert in your newsletter. Now, these are arbitrary amounts. These are just amounts to demonstrate. But what you'll see is that the assets increase with the value. And the reason for this is when we make an approach and we ask for a specific sum, we give people the opportunity to give us more, but also to give us less. But we also create a contract, if you like. We're saying, for this money, we will do this in return. And what that means is if you go and you ask a business for £250, for example, using this menu, and they say, well, I can't give you that, but I can give you £100. What you then have shown them already is the assets they'll get in return. You don't then have to have an awkward conversation. And what you don't do is then give away too much for a small amount of money, and it makes it easier for you to come back. So, as I say, just an arbitrary list of amounts as an example. You'll need to make your own menu and your own list. And then you need to make your approach. I always think a letter is nice because people don't get a lot of letters, and I think it physically demonstrates that you're offering them 2 sheets of paper to read about. One will be a one-sided letter and the other will be your menu. And then follow up with an email, and then call, which is that everybody hates but is really, really crucial. And when you call, have your email ready to send again. And in your approach, this is how I would structure it. I would start with your reason for contacting. So I'd say, I'm writing to you because you are a family business. You pride yourself in supporting families. Use their phrase back to them about synergy, and go straight to, please help us to make this difference. Use that PR story there. I'd also put a figure in really early on, because then it allows the business reading the letter to understand what you're asking for, and shows that you understand their time is limited. I've read an awful lot of corporate requests where people don't actually put an amount in, and so it's very difficult for a business reading it to say, well, what do they actually want from me? Try and keep it to one page, and you can use your second and third paragraph to talk a little bit more about the impact of what you do. But we're trying to build a real, we're writing to you this, we're asking you to help us make this difference. We deliver this by giving us £250, we can buy a mixed ability swing, for example. Try and keep it to one page, and at the end, don't forget a call to action. If they read your letter and want to give you money instantly, you need to have a way for them to contact you. Once you've sent the letter, emailed, called, and gone through a lot of conversation and got an agreement, be the good partner in return. This is the biggest failing that I see in corporate partnerships, and it can stop a business that might give you £500 going on to give you £1,000 the next year and £20,000 the year after. So the first thing is to follow up in an email once they've agreed to be a partner, outlining the items from your menu, and then deliver more, especially in the first year. So as well as all the things that you've promised in your menu, keep them on guest lists, invite them to new initiatives, add them to newsletters, and just mail on periodically just to check in. Over-delivering can make it so much easier for them in year 2 or year 3 to go back and ask for more and just give you more money because you've been the brilliant partner. And don't forget, if you promise something and it can't be delivered, it's on you to make up. Corporate partnerships are resource heavy, and that's why I talk about being ready for them. There'll be a time in your organisation when you are ready for them, and it's not necessarily in your early days. And this is very true. I've seen this happen. By being a really good partner, you can develop a small donation into a regular partner who just loves the attention you give them, understands the contract, and enjoys the difference that they can make. A little final reminder of my feelings about the difference between sponsorship and partnership. Thank you for listening. I've rattled through a way of starting cold with corporate partnerships. I hope it's been useful, and to say again, there will be more fuller training coming from stronger communities. Thank you.